All right, welcome everybody to the Daily Dynasty Briefing, where we'll go through yesterday's headlines and transactions, do a quick review for all the activity that was happening for Wednesday, March the 12th. I am using NBC's news headlines. I'm going to read them from the start of the morning Wednesday, make comments on the items that need comments, but we're going to go through just a review just to see what happened all on Wednesday. Lesser activity for free agency as the days of this week progress, but still the musical chairs of quarterback is still underway. The first news item of yesterday morning is the Aaron Rodgers, a note about Aaron Rodgers' decision that his next team is gonna be more about situation. It's not gonna be about money. And all of the headlines that I see, whether it's from this NBC that I'm reading or from any other website or YouTube video, there's most of the Aaron Rodgers activity is focusing on the obvious. Pittsburgh has a great need. The Giants have a great need. They're both desperate. Both teams have missed out on all of the other names, have turned them down. Quarterbacks especially don't want to go play for Pittsburgh from a offensive fit standpoint. Not a very good offensive line. It's a good team. It's a winning team, but no quarterback who has options really wants to go work for Arthur Smith and that offense. And everybody in the league knows it. The players know it, but we never see that reported in the news. Everybody, the news reports are more, "Ooh, Arthur Smith's a guru," and everybody wants to go play with the guru Arthur Smith. He's not a guru. Quarterbacks are trying to run away from going to Pittsburgh, in large part because of Arthur Smith. So they're trying to fit Aaron Rodgers into the obvious Pittsburgh opening, into the obvious Giants opening, where Brian Daboll's got a little bit better of a reputation, but the Giants as a whole don't have a great reputation, and they also have a bad offensive line. My reporting yesterday on Aaron Rodgers is getting stronger and stronger, and you're starting to see it floated out on the internet. But talking to a source that I have some trust in, that the Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota matchmaking is really getting strong. That's where Aaron Rodgers wants to go. The ball is in Minnesota's court, and if everybody acknowledges, and it makes sense that Aaron Rodgers is not in this for the money. It's not like he needs this mega contract. He wants good money for his services, but he really wants to end his career on a high note after what has happened the last couple years. The perfect way to rehab his career, potentially go out as a winner, is with the Minnesota Vikings, who were almost the number one seed in the NFC last year. They're killing it in free agency this year. They have an excellent offensive line that they've only added to this offseason. It's the perfect fit for Aaron Rodgers. That's if Minnesota wants to go down that road. They have J.J. McCarthy. They're ready to go forward with J.J. McCarthy in the same way that Denver was ready to go forward with Bo Nix. But Aaron Rodgers is still very viable. Could buy J.J. McCarthy another year of rehab with his ACL, and mentorship under Aaron Rodgers, who's really good working with young quarterbacks. He gets a bad rap for being standoffish in the media, but behind the scenes, players love him. The other quarterbacks in the quarterback room Like, he really helped Zach Wilson with the Jets. He's still super close with Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers gets a bad rap on his personality, but he's really good with the other players, and he could be sensational for JJ McCarthy. So I think that's what's going to happen. As I'm thinking Thursday is the day, but we started out the day Wednesday with Aaron Rodgers talk about Malik Neighbors is such a draw for the Giants, and that DK Metcalf is such a draw for Pittsburgh. I mean, you're sitting there, you got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson and a top-notch offensive line just sitting there in Minnesota. And Minnesota's always graded as one of the top organizations across the board for facilities and coaching staff and everything else. So if Minnesota wants it, and I think they do, just for a one-year thing, I think we're going to see Aaron Rodgers go to Minnesota. But as of Wednesday morning, the talk was still mostly focused on the Giants and the Steelers in the mainstream. Leaving that, next headline, Van Jefferson. The Titans agreed to terms with Van Jefferson, 1 year, $2.5 million. Van Jefferson has been a mostly bust wide receiver, very overrated wide receiver. Tennessee needs more wide receiver help. I don't know what Van Jefferson accomplishes for them. They didn't put a lot of money into it, so it's not the worst deal in the world, but I just keep seeing the Titans making these deals with players that aren't really going to have an impact to a obviously the worst team in the league last year, and I don't see them getting any better with their off-season moves. DeMar Hamlin back to Buffalo. Trey Brown goes from Seattle to the 49ers, a corner. That's not big news. Greg Gaines back with the Buccaneers at defensive line. He's solid. Then we're getting to the news section of Wednesday morning, where the Cooper Cup talk started to happen. And all the headlines and all the media makes it seem like, there's this huge market for Cooper Cup. If there was a huge market for Cooper Cup, they would have made some type of trade with the Rams, figured out some money exchange where the Rams would be paying for the bulk of Cooper Cup. But there's been no real trade interest. They tried to trade him last year. They tried to trade him this year. He's got a terrible contract. And teams realized that the Rams were going to cut him. But you'd think if there was this strong market, some team would figure out something to get themselves in there to land him. I don't think there's a big market for Cooper Cup, but the media's pushing it like he's this star that's on the loose. I see all this Cooper Cup stories of interest in the headlines, but I don't see anything. There's not been a headline or a discussion point or anything about Keenan Allen, who's looked better to me last year, a couple years older than Cooper Cup. You don't hear a peep about a fervor or a strong market for him. And I think he's a better get than what Cooper Cup is now today. Cooper Cup used to be fantastic, but I think all the foot injuries and everything's kind of caught up to Cooper Cup, to where he still belongs in the NFL. He still has a role to play, but this is not like landing Devontae Adams in his 30s or even Keenan Allen. So I don't think there's that strong a market for Cooper Cup. But there's going to be a headline coming up that suggests where he's going to go, which makes me shake my head, but we'll get to that in a second. Seattle signs Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling is a fine enough wide receiver to be on an NFL roster, but you're telling me that the Seattle Seahawks are going from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold, which is a drop-off, and I'm not a big Sam Darnold guy, but Geno Smith is really a very competent, solid, statistically sound quarterback. And then you're going to Sam Darnold, who was fantastic last year, was terrible his entire career, and then fantastic in Minnesota until the last couple games, of which he got exposed and he looked terrible. That's that that what teams were doing to him, heavy blitzing him late in the season and making him fall apart. That's what they're going to do to him this year. And he had a really nice offensive line in Minnesota. Seattle they have not had a good offensive line for several years. So they go from Geno to Darnold. They go from DK Metcalf and Lockett to Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and we might as well just bring in the Cooper Kupp thing. There's talk that Seattle's the number one destination for Cooper Kupp. So you're going to replace Metcalf and Lockett with Cooper Kupp and Marquez Valdez-Scantling and do a downgrade at quarterback? Man, I don't like where Seattle is headed at all. Mike McDonald better create a killer defense to try to get that team over. Troy Dye back to the Chargers. Rashad Weaver from the Rams is going to the Jets. Jalen Reagor re-signed with the Chargers. I don't get what the affinity is with Jalen Reagor. He cost them several moments last year with bad drops, but Harbaugh seems to love him. Marcus Mariota back with Washington. That's a good, solid backup to Jaden Daniels' style. He was always going to go back there, so he is officially back with the Commanders. The next part, as we're progressing through the day's headlines, now there's the news hit that Cooper Kupp was actually released, so no one wanted to trade for him, so now he's available on the loose. The Cowboys traded for failed Buffalo Bills former first-round draft pick a couple years ago, Kaiir Elam, corner from Florida that had a lot of high hopes. I think was an instant starter for Buffalo, and it just never worked out. So Dallas traded there was some basic pick swap for Dallas to take a look there. It's smart by Dallas to take a look. It's not going to cost them anything. Another headline in the middle of the day, or in the morning of Wednesday, Giants and Steelers are waiting to hear from Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers was really just all about either the money or just picking between the obvious, the Giants and the Steelers, and because Aaron Rodgers is really not all about the money, and he's got these offers from the Giants and the Steelers who are desperate, you would think he would have made his decision. He's not going to hold out. He's not holding out, pitting the Giants and Steelers against each other to try to get more money or get anything. He could have either one of those jobs, whichever one he felt the best about. He could have had it already. Could have had it yesterday. He is trying to put something together with the Minnesota Vikings. They keep reporting that Aaron Rodgers is waiting for the Vikings to get interested. That's not true. The Vikings are talking to Aaron Rodgers about what a situation would look like. So just in case it falls apart, Rodgers has the Giants and Steelers on the hook, desperately waiting. But there's going to be a rude awakening if Rodgers signs with Minnesota. For the Giants and the Steelers are going to really be up a creek, especially the Steelers if they've turned away any thoughts of Russell Wilson wanting to sign there. But at this stage of the morning, it's still Giants and Steelers talk about Rodgers. Eddie Goldman goes from the Falcons to the Commanders. That's no big impact deal. Kirk Cousins, who may start to become somebody in this quarterback musical chairs, the Falcons retained him through Sunday, so his guaranteed money got increased by $10 million. So they're paying a lot of money for what looks like a broken down backup quarterback. But if Aaron Rodgers does go to Minnesota, there may suddenly be a Kirk Cousins desperation for Pittsburgh or the Giants. I guess Cleveland can be thrown into that mix as well, because the next headline is just a reminder of that. Russell Wilson will travel to Cleveland and take a visit with the Browns. So Russell Wilson must not have heard anything great from the Giants, or he realizes he's the second choice for the Giants, that they're trying to go for Aaron Rodgers. So Russell Wilson's covering all of his bets and visiting with all of the teams of interest. And maybe Russell Wilson gets sick of waiting around and signs with Cleveland. Maybe they can buy him. And then if Aaron Rodgers goes to Minnesota, Pittsburgh and the Giants there's nothing left. There's going to be fighting over Jameis Winston. Then probably the biggest news of the fantasy football Wednesday, mid-morning or so, midday, Evan Ingram signed a 2-year, $23 million contract with Denver. This is the best situation Evan Ingram will have gone into in his entire career. He has had moments of being the top fantasy tight end in a given season for a stretch. He hit it sometimes at the Giants. He had moments late in seasons with Jacksonville. I think the issue is more on their offense and their quarterback than it is Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is a weapon just waiting to be used that has basically been wasted most of his career for what he could have been. But now he goes to Denver with the best quarterback he's going to have played with, Bo Nix, way better than Trevor Lawrence, with a better offensive mind, Sean Payton, and Sean Payton could use Evan Ingram in a lot of interesting ways, as he tends to do with his tight ends. This is huge for the fantasy football tight end market for rankings. We're updating our top 600 Dynasty rankings today. This is Thursday, reporting on the Wednesday news. So when our projections come out, you may be surprised where Evan Ingram is for Dynasty. And then when our best ball projections, top 600 projections hit, you may really be surprised where Evan Ingram is trending for the year, just the season 2025. So big situation for fantasy with Evan Ingram going to Denver. That's one of the best places I think he could have gone to for his fantasy goodness. Javon Hargrave signed with the Vikings. The Vikings are killing it in free agency. They got Hargrave and Jonathan Allen from Washington, both not great run stoppers, but great at rushing the passer. So Minnesota has been just acquiring pass rushing defensive tackle aces up the middle this offseason. Malik Collins goes from the 49ers, signs a pretty decent deal to go to the Browns. That's a lot of money, it seems, for Malik Collins, who's bounced around quite a bit in his career. Then we're to the news section where now, for the first time in the kind of mainstream, Diana Rossini reports that the Vikings are still evaluating their options at quarterback, including the possibility of signing Aaron Rodgers. That's the only thing the Vikings can be considering. They had some interest in Daniel Jones coming back as a backup, but Daniel Jones knew that he could. I think Daniel Jones signed with the Colts with the handshake agreement that basically Daniel Jones is going to be the starting quarterback, because I think the Colts are done with Anthony Richardson. So what are the Vikings evaluating at quarterback? They're not going to go Russell Wilson. They're not going to go Kirk Cousins. They're not going to go Jameis Winston. It's either Aaron Rodgers, or they're going to go forward with J.J. McCarthy. So that's started to rumble out midday yesterday, and again, I had word from somebody that Rodgers and Minnesota thing is really close, just going through final details, and all Minnesota has to do is sign on the dotted line because Aaron Rodgers is ready to go there. An IDP item that is under the radar, but could be a kind of a big deal for IDP. Jack Sanborn, linebacker from the Bears, signed to be with the Cowboys. Jack Sanborn racked up some huge numbers when he was forced into being a starter, I think his rookie season with the Bears, with Matt Eberflus. Maybe it was his second year with Chicago, but it was with Matt Eberflus. Now Eberflus is in Dallas. He brings Jack Sanborn over. Dallas could need some linebacker help. We could see Sanborn as a starter for Eberflus, and whatever anybody would think of Sanborn, he racks IDP numbers, and he's only 24 years old. So one of the sneakier, better signings of the free agency that could have real IDP impact. Seattle signs DeMarcus Lawrence away from Dallas. Again, more money going into overrated pass rushers. I have no idea what the Seattle is doing with their team this offseason. It looks like they think that they're moving things around and getting ready to make a run. To me, it looks like Seattle is coming way down. You look at the NFC West, Seattle's coming way down to me, or they're not. They're certainly not getting better. San Francisco is gutting its team for a rebuild. The other teams in the NFC West are almost handing the Rams the NFC West for this year, almost conceding to them the NFC West this year. Darius Slay got $10 million to go to the Steelers. Man, Slay looked like he's starting to run out of gas. The Steelers may have bought that at the wrong time. Mary Kay Cabot reporting Russell Wilson will meet with the Giants after he meets with the Browns on Thursday. He's going to meet with the Giants on Friday. Again, he's just waiting to see where Aaron Rodgers goes. But I think my nickel bet is Russell Wilson's going to end up with the Giants. And the Steelers are going to be the ones without a quarterback of note, and they're going to have to go to a Jameis Winston, and then drafting a quarterback is the way I think that's going to work out. Christian Roseboom signed by the Panthers. He was all right with the Rams last year. Kenneth Murray, this is another decent little under the radar move for the Dallas Cowboys at linebacker. They bring in Sanborn, and now they bring in Kenneth Murray, who's a former first-round draft pick, he's had sparks of really looking like a great off-ball linebacker, can do some pass rushing. They try to make him a interior linebacker, which has had moments, but there's some talent there. There's something to do with him, and Dallas snagged him for a pretty cheap deal. Kevin Zeitler to the Titans. That's maybe one of the first Titans off-season moves that looks like it's halfway decent. Zeitler is getting up there in age, but his numbers from last year were still, his blocking grades and numbers were still pretty good. So Tennessee needs all the help they can get on the offensive line. Denzel Perryman back to the Chargers. Khalil Herbert signs with the Colts. I don't think he's the handcuff to Jonathan Taylor. I think it's just a basic signing, a camp body. It's somebody to bring in. I bet he doesn't even make the Colts roster. Khalil Herbert looks like he's about 1 foot out of the league, just become a journeyman fill-in for running to sign when your running backs get hurt and you need to sign a warm body. That looks like that's going to be Khalil Herbert's future. Amir Smith-Marset back to the Giants. He's a good special teamer and number 4 or 5 wide receiver. Juan Thornhill visiting the 49ers. They might be able to get him cheap. So that's a smart move. Benjamin St. Juste has just had his really career has not worked out as a cover corner the way that I thought it was going to be. Really bad rating numbers working for the Commanders through different regimes. Now the Chargers are signing him and giving him a shot. Jonathan Jones signed by the Commanders from the Patriots. He's always been solid. A.J. Dillon signs with the Eagles. He got totally cleared from his neck injury that held him out all last year. He signs a 1-year deal with the Eagles. That's a smart depth backup. Take a look. It didn't cost him a lot of money. Jets signed Josh Myers at center, who used to be the center for Justin Fields in at Ohio State. So it didn't cost a lot of money. It's a smart little pickup. Let's see, Cooper Kupp has significant interest and has a new home in the next 24 hours or so. Maybe they're trying to link him to any place that makes sense, like going to Jacksonville because he knows Liam Cohen and the new general manager, James Gladstone. That new general manager for Jacksonville is really sharp. I don't think he's going to fall for signing Cooper Kupp, but maybe it's not the craziest thing. If the deal is cheap enough, I think they would bring in Cooper Kupp, but Cooper Kupp's probably looking for a huge deal that he's finding out he's not going to get. So maybe he will be able to be cheap to go help be a veteran presence in Jacksonville. So we'll see. I shouldn't rule that out that fast. I don't think he's going to get big money to go to Jacksonville. Just released C.J. Mosley. He's been done for probably over a year now. Craig Reynolds back with the Lions. They seem to have an affinity for him. No fantasy impact there. Rico Dowdle, the big star for the Dallas Cowboys. One of the reasons why the Dallas Cowboys had a down year last year, putting all of their eggs in the backfield eggs in the Rico Dowdle basket, who's not a legit starting running back. I mean, if you give any running back 20 plus carries in the NFL, that's halfway decent. They could get 100-yard games, like Rico Dowdle had a little run of 100-yard games late in the season, but he was not a difference maker. He was not an impact player. Obviously, Dallas had him and sees that and just lets him walk. For some reason, the Panthers gave him $6 million for 1 year. Which is way overpriced in this market. But I think it's also a sign that they know Jonathan Brooks probably isn't even going to play this upcoming year. And I think the Panthers just realized when they got Brooks that they got a problem off the field as well as all of the knee issues. So this is being sold as this is a stopgap for when Jonathan Brooks comes back. I don't think the Panthers are counting on Jonathan Brooks to be back this year and maybe never plays another down with the Panthers because of multiple knee issues, and I think there's some off-field issues as well, which has spurred Carolina to put a bunch of money into Chuba Hubbard. This Rico Dowdle signing is a huge thumbs up for fantasy football for Chuba Hubbard, because if Carolina's putting this money in Rico Dowdle, they are not likely to draft a running back highly. They still may draft one day 3. There's so many good ones out there. Could be somewhat of a risk to Chuba Hubbard if they land on the right one in the draft, but they may even not draft one because they think they got Rico Dowdle and therefore they've got depth and they don't need to really address running back, which is just great news for Chuba Hubbard, who is a heart and soul running back for Carolina. Whether you like him or you don't like him, respect him, don't kind of respect him, he is their guy in the same way that James Conner is Arizona's coaching staff's guy. They're the guys, whether you think the backups are better or not. Chuba Hubbard is the man in Carolina, and Rico Dowdle is not going to bump him. This is great news for the touch counts, for the projections of Chuba Hubbard for 2025 and really beyond. I think as long as the Carolina staff stays in place, which they will, Chuba's going to be their guy. Bailey Zappi, not tendered by the Browns. The Bailey Zappi story is really over anyway. Draymond Jones signed to the Titans for a lot of money. That's a sucker's bet. Cam Jordan is returning for the Saints. Harrison Smith, at age 36, is back with the Vikings. Dietrich Wise signs with the Commanders away from the Patriots. Not too much money there. Not too much of an impact player. Tylan Wallace, wide receivers, re-signs with Baltimore. He had little flashes of moments with Baltimore last year, but nothing. I don't see any big future on the horizon for Tylan Wallace for fantasy football. Mike Williams back to the Chargers for 1 year for $6 million. Maybe if he gets another year away from the ACL tear, he's gonna get some juice. But he looked dreadful for the Steelers last year. A lot of drops, couldn't get open. Still the big body, still can maybe make some red zone plays with physicality, but it looks like all the juice has been zapped from him, and he didn't have that much juice to begin with. Kyle Trask back to be the backup in Tampa Bay. Then we get Kyle Shanahan finally gets Mac Jones, as was rumored that the reason the 49ers traded up in the draft to draft a quarterback was to get Mac Jones, but ultimately it was Trey Lance, which was a bigger bust than what Mac Jones was. But now Mac Jones is with the 49ers, and I wonder if this is going to put some pressure on the Brock Purdy negotiations, that San Francisco's maybe getting themselves in line with another quarterback as they're dismantling their team. Do they really want to put a bazillion dollars into Brock Purdy? And I'm a huge Brock Purdy guy, and I think that they should, and I think that they will. But this is an interesting signing of Mac Jones for a lower contract, but it has some markers in it for performance, and if he's called to duty, he can really earn some more money. But I'm sure they're gonna stick with Brock Purdy. They have to. Dalvin Tomlinson to the Cardinals. Boy, that's a lot of money for Dalvin Tomlinson. From the Browns, Adam Thielen is officially returning to Carolina. I didn't know that was in question. And then that's it. That's it for the news from yesterday. Or I guess the last thing was Cooper Kupp is supposedly Seattle is at the front of the line for Cooper Kupp. Again, I say Metcalf and Tyler Lockett out and shot Cooper Kupp and Marquez Valdes-Scantling in. I mean, obviously they can draft wide receivers, but this is everything seems like a downgrade going on in Seattle right now to me. I think it was fine to trade DK Metcalf, but what they're backfilling with at this point, I'm not loving where this is going to go for fantasy for a Sam Darnold. If you're thinking that Sam Darnold just landed in a great place and is going to have a repeat of 2024 with Seattle, man, I don't see it. No, the offensive line isn't close. The wide receiver group isn't close. Not exciting what I'm seeing with Seattle. Okay, one quick look through the transaction list, the official NFL transaction list, just to see if there was anything that happened that wasn't reported in the headlines that might have some fantasy implications. Greg Dortch looks like Arizona's trying to lock him back in. Not that that's a big deal. Dwayne D. Eskridge signed with Miami. I think his days of any hope of or excitement in him for fantasy is ended a while ago. Looks like all these other transactions are either not fantasy worthy or we already discussed. Larry Ogunjobi actually signed with Buffalo. I didn't catch that. I didn't see that in any of the headlines. That's a nice little addition for Buffalo along the defensive line. So, but not earth shattering. So that is it for the news and transactions from March the 12th, Wednesday, 2025. We'll be updating the Dynasty Top 600 today, Thursday, March 13th, based on all of the latest transactions, and either trying to guess ahead on Rodgers and Russell Wilson and the Giants and the Steelers quarterback situations, or something really happens in the middle of the day and we're able to update it with that impact. If not, we're going to start to do some guessing, and one of the projections that we're guessing, quote unquote, is going to be the impact of Aaron Rodgers on Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, him going to the Vikings, obviously, and re-teaming up with Aaron Jones is going to be a part of our Dynasty update, and then our best ball top 600 for 2025 update as well. So that's it for this daily Dynasty briefing.